Mariana Sandez, née à Buenos Aires, elle vit à Madrid depuis 2019. Diplômée en littérature à Buenos Aires, elle étudie par la suite la littérature anglaise à l'université de Manchester et est titulaire d'un diplôme de troisième cycle en théorie littéraire et littérature comparée de Barcelone. Elle crée et dirige plusieurs programmes littéraires prestigieux pour différentes grandes institutions culturelles de Buenos Aires, tels que celui du Musée national des beaux-arts. Elle écrit des articles littéraires pour les deux principaux journaux d'Argentine et depuis qu'elle s'est installée en Espagne, elle écrit également pour Elle, Periódico de España. Elle est l'autrice de plusieurs livres, un livre d'entretien et d'essais sur la littérature et le cinéma argentin, El Cine de Manuel, un voyage autour de l'œuvre de Manuel Antín, un recueil de nouvelles, Certaines familles ordinaires, publié en Argentine en 2016 et republié en Espagne en 2021, un premier roman, Une maison remplie de gens, publié dans son pays en Argentine également en 2019 et republié en Espagne en 2022 chez Impedimenta. Puis un deuxième roman, La vie minuscule, qui vient tout juste de sortir cette année en 2024 et qui a été publié simultanément en Argentine et en Espagne, toujours aux éditions Impedimenta. Mariana a reçu la bourse du Fondo Nacional de las Artes pour la création littéraire en Argentine en 2018 pour son premier roman et celui du ministère de la Culture en Espagne pour le troisième, en cours d'écriture, celui sur lequel elle travaille à Lavigny.
Merci, bonsoir. Je vais parler très peu parce que mon français c'est pas comme les autres. Et c'est pour ça que je vais raconter un petit peu sur mon dernier roman, le deuxième, La vie minuscule. Et après, je vais lire un peu en espagnol, un petit peu pour que vous entendiez comment ça sonne. Et après, je lirai un chapitre en anglais. Acaba de dar un paso al costado y prefiere no mirar atrás. Es algo temporario, eso la calma. Emprende un viaje por la tierra paterna sin fechas específicas ni propósito. Va con una valija de cabina cuidada, vieja, y un saco de pana verde, bastante ancho para su figura, que pudo haber pertenecido a otra persona. Sus mocasines diminutos de hebilla apenas contactan el piso con la ligereza de las palomas. Hay algo tremendamente narrativo en esa mujer tan pequeña que cabe en un achinamiento de ojos. Dorothea Dodds avanza por la noche sucia de Londres con la cautela de una monja, una sombra melancólica en la oscuridad. En su andar va dejando huella como los aviones cuando subrayan el cielo con tiza. No le pesan los rosarios ni los pecados ajenos, pero la hunde la culpa por lo que se atrevió a inventar. Jamás pensó que llegaría a tomar una decisión tan insensata, ni sabe, aunque intuye, que elegirá su final. Chapter 1. On the morning of the day when she had everything ready for her desertion, Dorothea fell back onto the twin bed next to mine. I can't do it. She started to twirl the tassels of the blanket around her fingers and, ashamed, lowered her teary eyes to focus on the reassuring exercise. I put down the shoes I was shining and went over to sit next to her. It's just nerves, cousin, I said, giving her a firm pat on the back. When I came from the bathroom, she was still half-dressed and looking vacantly into the wardrobe mirror, running her fingers over the treacherous lines on her face. After an unwished, sleepless night, the wrinkles were so deep that she looked as though she'd used a colander for a pillow. The bulging bags under her eyes were like sweet potatoes about to sprout through the skin. Her hair, which usually fell in a bob over her shoulders with an elegance I often admired, was an unattractive tangle, sticking up in places so that one could see the ring of grey roots under the chestnut dye, like an ashtray you can never get clean. Come on, let's put on a little makeup, I said to get her going. I could tell she was reluctant to leave the room and meet up with her parents. She'd never been good at deceiving them, not even now, with her on the cusp of old age and they tittering into the next word. Meanwhile, outside the room, We could hear the old couple slouching around, pulling things this way and that, coming and going from the kitchen, bumping into each other and bickering over who was to blame, in shouted whispers because they were both hard of hearing, my uncle more so. They would take turns knocking on our door with the regularity of a clock with a pair of cuckoos. Now we are at Victoria Station, one of the major travel hubs of London, one Monday morning in early April. Usually it's so busy that if you try to stop for a moment to check your mobile phone or consult the information screens, you are liable to get trampled by hordes of individuals heading frenetically towards you from different directions at once. And then there was a general perturbation in the air. The Queen had recently announced that Britain would be leaving the European Union, and hundreds of thousands of people had gone out to protest. The climate was that of frustration and resignation. Arguments were taking place for and against in every household, offices and pub pavements after closing time, as much as all around the Houses of Parliament. Right in the midst of this bustling scene, Dorothea suddenly came to a stop, forcing everyone else to stop as well. Her parents were confused. Having let things go on as long as she could, and spurred by my insistent whispering in her ear and nudging of her elbow, my cousin began to announce that she wasn't going back to Buenos Aires with them. She would stay in London for a while at my house in Hampstead. She really only needed to say 5 words. I'm not coming with you. Or 4. I won't go back. Or she could have been abstract. No return. Or declarative. I'm staying. What she actually did say was so rumbling and difficult to hear in the noisy station that against my better judgment I ended up speaking for her. This suitcase, I announced, contains my clothes. I am traveling with you to Buenos Aires, aunt, uncle, if you'll have me, while Dorothea is taking a holiday here. I need to observe Daddy's passing and to get away from all this for a while. Do you mind? My aunt and uncle stood still, staring at me as though they wanted to hear it all again, certain they must not have heard properly. It took them a while to process the information. I might be having a hard time, but at that moment my cousin's body must have felt as though it was trapped in an iron Mary. It was torture for her to know how much her parents depended on her, how helpless they were without her. Of course, my dear, no travel at all, Sophia muttered breathlessly. You're always welcome in our house, Mary. It'll be a pleasure, it goes without saying. Through the thick lenses of her glasses, she studied us with her spent eyelashes and damp eyes. She looked upset. She took her asthma inhaler out of her bag and turned away for a puff. Then she stared just as hard at her husband, silently pressuring him to say something. You're very welcome. There's more than enough room, Robert said, obviously taken aback. We've changed the ticket, done the check-in, everything's arranged. There's nothing to worry about, I added. We would be changing places. I didn't mind replacing Dorothy as her father's professional assistant, mother's companion, domestic coordinator, and heart and soul of the household. I had plenty of time on my hands and was eminently capable. And I was flush with the confidence my cousin so sadly lacked. Robert, are you going to say something about your daughter's decision? Obviously, she must come with us, the way we arranged. What is this nonsense about wanting to stay here on the last minute and telling us this in this inconsiderate fashion? My aunt battled. What can I say? I think it's awful. How long are you talking about? Asked he. A few weeks, a couple of months. It goes so quickly, said Dorothea evasively. She looked at me for encouragement, then she rummaged around in her handbag as though she were looking for a lost sweet. We discussed it at length, and although she was having a hard time admitting it, she was determined to go through with the plan. It might be worth mentioning that she was staying firm for the first time in her life at the age of 59.